to take their job. Say, bet you don't know what's going on. Say, bet you don't know what's going on. Ladies, bet you don't know what's going on. Bet you don't know what's going on. Fellas, bet you don't know what's going on. Everybody say, bet you don't know what's going on.
Hi, I'm Wood Harris, and for the best in R&B and soul,
I remember as a child, I loved the sound of the instrument. My mother is a fan of saxophone players. She loved people like Junior Walker, George Coleman from the Miles Davis Quintet back in the day. She loved Charlie Parker, all these great saxophone players.
You know, our mother, she listened to a lot of Cannonball Adderley, you know, some of the earlier horn players, and he just kind of gravitated towards that. Me, I gravitated towards string instruments, and you know, we always heard wind instruments at home.
I remember as a young boy, I would try to imitate. I would sneak and listen to her records when she wasn't home, and she had these curtain rods that would bend up into the shape of a saxophone. I would pretend I was playing the instrument. After I signed up in school to play in the band, and I would come home with the school instrument and try to play, I guess she felt sorry for me one day and decided to buy me my first alto saxophone. In high school, I remember one life-defining moment, and that was when in the school band, the jazz band we had, we played a concert for the school, and I had a tenor saxophone solo. And I remember I was someone that wasn't well known in school. I took that solo, and from that day forward, I turned from anonymity to a celebrity. And I said at that moment, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life, because by that time all the girls knew my name and shouted my name. And I said, you know what, I like this. This is really cool. I think I was about 16 at the time.
The first band that we played in together really was a band called Mystic Funk.
Mystic Funk.
I have to remember I was back in the 70s.
I remember our first day of rehearsal together, he came late. Everybody's waiting for him to come down because he's the star guitar player of the group. You know, the members of the band are all excited he's coming down. I'm excited my brother's gonna be in the band. He shows up late, right? About 2.5 hours late. He comes in, he's all dressed up with the afro, brings in his green guitar, and I hated him being in the band. I was like, we should find another guitar player.
Because he doesn't respect the band. And I was just some local guy that got to spend a lot of time playing in basements. So that's how we became proficient, you know, being in the basement bands. I think we just didn't know that we couldn't be successful, so we just continued our path.
After high school, I toured with this group from my neighborhood named Area Code. And we used to open shows for some of the groups like Blue Magic and Red Fox. We did a lot of things like that. We went on tour with Miss Black America in the late 70s, doing European countries.
We had reached a point in our young adolescent lives that we had virtually become bums, you know. We were sleeping all day and hanging out all night because we had finished high school, and we decided we were going to just see what it's like to be an adult. And our mother sat us down. These are your options, she said. You can go get a job and go to school, or y'all can get out. We decided we would go to school instead of getting out or getting a job. We weren't ready for a job. We went up to a place called New England Conservatory of Music, the school up in Boston. They're doing jazz, and there aren't enough, blacks up there. To my surprise, we made it.
Thank you.
My brother had already moved back before I did. I ended up staying in Boston, I think perhaps a year later. And